What happens when a species that has conquered 1,000 worlds meets the one force they never calculated for? What occurs when beings who have mastered faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and dimensional warfare encounter something so simple, so fundamental, that it exists on every planet they've ever known, yet they never truly understood its power? The Zephyrian Empire had a perfect record: 1,000 worlds, 1,000 victories, 1,000 species either enslaved or extinct. They had technology that could bend space, weapons that could shatter moons, and ships that moved like ghosts between dimensions. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, and Earth was supposed to be just another easy conquest, a primitive world with primitive people wielding primitive weapons. But the Zephyrians made one critical error. They studied human technology, human weapons, human governments, and human warfare. They analyzed our satellites, intercepted our communications, and watched our movies about alien invasions. They prepared for human resistance, human cunning, and human desperation. What they didn't prepare for was the most powerful force on Earth, one that had been shaping our world, our evolution, and our very existence since the day life began. A force so obvious that every schoolchild learns about it, yet so complex that it would bring the galaxy's greatest military power to its knees. The Zephyrians were about to learn why humans don't just fight against the odds, we fight against the very forces that created us. And, on Earth, that force has a name that even the most advanced alien civilization couldn't master: gravity. Welcome to the war where physics became humanity's greatest weapon, where the most basic law of the universe became our ultimate advantage, and where an entire alien empire discovered that conquering Earth wasn't just difficult, it was literally impossible. The invasion was supposed to last 3 days. Instead, it became the greatest military disaster in galactic history. And the lesson that taught the universe one simple truth: never underestimate the species that learn to stand upright on a death world where everything is constantly trying to fall down. Commander Vexhai of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Stellar Dominion, watching the blue-green marble that was Earth grow larger on the main display. Around him, the largest invasion fleet in galactic history hung in the darkness of space. 12,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the technology of a civilization that had never known defeat. "Target analysis complete, Commander," reported Lieutenant Zilthara, her voice carrying the confidence that came from 1,000 successful conquests. The primitives possess nuclear weapons, basic aircraft, and crude ballistic missiles. Their most advanced fighters achieve speeds barely approaching Mach 3. Estimated resistance duration: 72 hours maximum. Vexhai nodded, his forearms folding behind his back as he studied the tactical display. Each red dot represented a human military installation. Each yellow marker showed population centers, and each green indicator marked resources to be harvested. It was a familiar sight. He had seen similar displays for dozens of worlds before their inevitable fall to Zephyrian superiority. "Gravitational readings, Lieutenant?" Vexhai asked, though it was mere routine. The science teams had been monitoring Earth's gravity well for months during their approach. "Standard planetary parameters, sir. 9.8 meters per second squared. Well within normal ranges for inhabited worlds. No gravitational anomalies detected." The commander almost smiled. Gravity was gravity, a universal constant that every spacefaring species had long ago learned to master. The Zephyrians had artificial gravity on their ships, gravity nullifiers for their troops, and gravity manipulation technology that could crush enemy vessels or lift entire cities. Earth's gravity was actually weaker than that of the Zephyrian homeworld. If anything, it would make the invasion easier. "Begin Phase 1 deployment," Vexhai ordered. "I want atmospheric entry in exactly 1 hour. The humans won't even know we're here until our ships are already through their primitive detection networks." What Commander Vexhai didn't understand, what no Zephyrian could understand, was that humans weren't just living with Earth's gravity. They had been forged by it, shaped by it, and had spent millions of years learning to fight against it every moment of their existence. Dr. Sarah Chun was having a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning when the extraordinary began. She was in her laboratory at the Colorado Springs Physics Institute, reviewing gravitational wave data from the latest LIGO measurements, when her equipment started showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Jenny, come look at this," she called to her research assistant, who was across the lab calibrating the seismographic equipment they used to study local gravitational variations. Jenny Martinez wheeled her chair over, coffee in hand, expecting to see another minor calibration error or background noise fluctuation. Instead, she found herself staring at a display that showed gravitational distortions unlike anything in the textbooks. "What am I looking at?" Jenny asked, setting down her coffee with trembling hands. "If I didn't know better, I'd say we're seeing massive gravitational shadows moving through the upper atmosphere," Sarah replied, her voice tight with concentration. "But that would require objects with incredible mass moving at impossible speeds." The two women stared at the readings for several more seconds before Sarah reached for the red telephone on her desk, the direct line to NORAD that every gravitational research facility in North America maintained for exactly this kind of emergency. "This is Dr. Chun at Colorado Springs Physics Institute," she said when the line connected. "I need to speak with General Morrison immediately. We have a Code 7 gravitational anomaly." Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, the Zephyrian fleet was beginning its descent. The massive ships moved with precision that spoke of centuries of military experience, their hulls designed to slip through atmospheric entry with minimal friction and maximum stealth. Advanced cloaking technology rendered them invisible to human radar, while their gravity manipulation systems should have allowed them to descend as gently as falling leaves. Should have. Captain Mordesh commanded the assault cruiser Swift Talon, one of the first ships to begin atmospheric entry. He had personally overseen similar operations on 47 different worlds, and each had proceeded exactly according to protocol. The ship's gravity nullifiers engaged automatically as they hit the outer atmosphere, designed to reduce the vessel's effective mass and allow for controlled descent. "Entry trajectory nominal," reported his navigation officer. "Gravity nullifiers at full power. Beginning descent to primary landing coordinates." But something was wrong. The Swift Talon was descending too fast, and the gravity nullifiers, technology that had worked flawlessly for centuries, seemed to be struggling against Earth's gravitational field in ways that made no sense. "Engineering, report," Captain Mordesh ordered, his voice sharp with concern. "Sir, the gravity nullifiers are operating within normal parameters, but they're not achieving expected efficiency. It's as if Earth's gravitational field is denser than our measurements indicated. That's impossible. Gravity is gravity." But even as the captain spoke those words, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. They weren't just descending faster than planned. They were accelerating beyond safe parameters. The Swift Talon, like all Zephyrian vessels, was built for space combat and orbital operations. It was never designed to handle the kind of gravitational stress that prolonged atmospheric flight would create. "Emergency protocols," Mordesh shouted. "All available power to gravity nullifiers." Throughout the ship, energy that should have powered weapons, shields, and life support was redirected to the gravity manipulation systems. But it wasn't enough. Earth's gravity seemed to be fighting back against their technology with a persistence that defied every scientific model the Zephyrians possessed. The first ship to crash was the destroyer Voidhunter. Its gravity nullifiers failed completely as it hit the denser layers of Earth's atmosphere, and the vessel, designed for the vacuum of space, began to experience structural stress that its builders never anticipated. The hull started to buckle under its own weight, something that had never happened to any Zephyrian ship in recorded history. General Patricia Morrison was in the middle of a routine briefing when the red phone rang. As the commanding officer of NORAD's Aerospace Defense Command, she had received exactly 3 Code 7 calls in her 20-year career, and all of them had turned out to be equipment malfunctions or solar storm interference. This was not a malfunction. "Dr. Chun, slow down and repeat that," General Morrison said, motioning for her staff to begin emergency protocols. "You're saying we have massive objects entering our atmosphere that we can't see on radar?" "General, I'm reading gravitational signatures consistent with objects weighing hundreds of thousands of tons moving through the upper atmosphere at several times the speed of sound. Whatever's up there, it's big, it's fast, and it's coming down." General Morrison looked at the main display in the command center, where her staff was frantically trying to correlate Dr. Chin's gravitational data with their radar and satellite imagery. What they found was terrifying in its implications. There were indeed massive objects in Earth's atmosphere, dozens of them, but they were completely invisible to every detection system except the gravitational wave monitors. Sound General Quarters, the general ordered. I want every military base in North America on high alert, and get me a direct line to the president. If someone's managed to develop stealth technology that can fool our radar, we need to know about it now. But even as the alert went out, the situation was becoming clear to everyone watching the gravitational monitors. These weren't human ships using advanced stealth technology. The objects were too large, moving in formations too perfect, and demonstrating flight characteristics that were beyond human engineering capability. Dr. Chin watched her instruments with growing amazement and horror as the gravitational signatures began to change. Several of the massive objects were no longer maintaining steady flight paths. They were beginning to behave like objects in free fall, their descent becoming erratic and increasingly rapid. "Jenny, are you recording all of this?" she asked, never taking her eyes off the displays. "Every bit of it," Jenny replied, though her voice was shaky with excitement and fear. "Sarah, I don't think these are human ships." "Neither do I." Above them, in the upper atmosphere, the Zephyrian fleet was learning a hard lesson about the difference between understanding gravity as a scientific concept and actually living with gravity as a constant, inescapable force. Their ships, designed for space warfare and equipped with technology that could manipulate gravitational fields, were discovering that Earth's gravity was not like the gravity of other worlds. It was patient, it was persistent, and it was absolutely, utterly unforgiving. The Void Hunter hit the ground in a remote area of Montana at over 400 miles per hour. The impact created a crater half a mile wide and registered as a magnitude 4.2 earthquake on seismographs as far away as Denver. The ship's hull, built to withstand the vacuum of space and the energy weapons of enemy vessels, crumpled like aluminum foil under the relentless pressure of Earth's gravitational field. Captain Mordesh was still fighting to save the Swift Talon when word reached him of the Void Hunter's destruction. The impossibility of it struck him like a physical blow. Zephyrian ships simply didn't crash due to gravity. They had technology specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of disaster. "Sir, I'm reading massive power drain across all systems," his engineering officer reported. "The gravity nullifiers are drawing more energy than our reactors can provide on a sustained basis." "How is that possible?" "I don't know, sir. It's as if Earth's gravity is actively fighting against our technology, requiring exponentially more power to maintain nullification fields." What the Zephyrians couldn't understand was that humans had been living with Earth's gravity for so long that they had evolved specifically to deal with it. Human bones were dense enough to support human weight against constant gravitational pull. Human muscles were designed to work efficiently while constantly fighting against gravitational force. Human cardiovascular systems were built to pump blood upward against gravity's relentless downward pull. Every aspect of human biology was the result of millions of years of evolution on a world where gravity was not just a force to be overcome, but a constant companion that shaped every moment of existence. The Zephyrians, masters of gravity manipulation, had never needed to truly understand gravity. They controlled it, they used it as a weapon, they negated it when convenient. But they had never spent eons learning to live with it, work with it, and survive despite its constant presence. Commander Vexhai received the reports of the first crashes with growing disbelief. 3 ships destroyed, 7 more in severe distress, and dozens reporting power system failures, all due to something as simple as planetary gravity. "Analysis teams, immediate report," he ordered. "I want to know why our gravity nullification technology is failing." The answer, when it came, was both simple and impossible to accept. Earth's gravity wasn't just stronger than their measurements had indicated. It was more complex, more nuanced, and somehow more resistant to artificial manipulation than the gravity of any world the Zephyrians had ever encountered. "Sir," the chief science officer reported, Preliminary analysis suggests that Earth's gravitational field has unique characteristics that interfere with our nullification technology. The field appears to be more persistent than standard gravitational models would predict. Explain. It's as if the planet's gravity has been refined, somehow. Concentrated. Our nullifiers can overcome it temporarily, but the energy requirements increase exponentially the longer we remain in the field. It's like trying to swim upstream in a current that gets stronger the more you fight against it. Commander Vexhai stared at the tactical display, watching red icons appear as more ships reported critical system failures. The invasion that was supposed to last 3 days was failing before it had even begun, and the enemy responsible wasn't human technology or human resistance. It was the planet itself. All ships, abort atmospheric entry. He finally ordered, though he knew it was too late for many of his vessels. Return to high orbit immediately. But even that retreat was proving difficult. Earth's gravity well extended much further into space than Zephyrian calculations had predicted, and many ships were finding that they lacked the power reserves necessary to fight their way back to safe orbital distance. Dr. Chun watched the gravitational readings with fascination as the massive objects began to change course, many of them struggling to climb back toward space. Whatever technology they were using to fight against gravity was clearly failing, and the results were becoming visible even to conventional detection methods as several objects began to burn up during their uncontrolled reentry. General Morrison, this is Dr. Chun, she said into the red phone. I think our visitors are retreating, but they're having trouble leaving. Several large objects are in uncontrolled descent, and I'm reading massive energy discharges from others that appear to be struggling to achieve escape velocity. Doctor, in your professional opinion, what exactly are we dealing with here? Dr. Chin looked at the displays showing gravitational distortions unlike anything in the scientific literature, energy signatures that defied known physics, and flight patterns that suggested intelligence and technology far beyond human capability. General, she said quietly, I believe we have just witnessed the first unsuccessful attempt at alien invasion in human history. And they're losing the war against the same force that every human being fights against every day of their lives. Gravity. Gravity. As the first day of what should have been a 3-day invasion came to an end, the Zephyrian Empire was forced to confront a truth that would shake their understanding of warfare, physics, and their own place in the universe. They had just been defeated by the most basic force in the cosmos, wielded by a species that had spent millions of years learning to stand upright despite its constant pull. The war for Earth had begun, but the humans hadn't fired a single shot. High Admiral Kethvar had ruled the Zephyrian Empire's war machine for over 3 centuries, and in all that time, he had never received a report like the one sitting on his desk. According to Commander Vexhai's transmission, the invasion fleet had lost 47 ships in 6 hours, not to enemy fire, not to superior technology, not even to unexpected resistance from the primitive humans. They had lost 47 ships to gravity. Impossible, the High Admiral muttered, reading the report for the 3rd time. His personal aide, a young officer named Thelonis, stood at attention nearby, clearly as confused by the situation as his superior. Sir, should we dispatch additional fleets to Earth? Thelonis asked. Perhaps a different approach. No. Kethvar's voice was sharp. If Vexhai's report is accurate, sending more ships would only mean more losses. I want our best scientists analyzing this immediately. There has to be an explanation. But the explanation, when it came from the Empire's top gravitational physicists, was even more disturbing than the original problem. Dr. Felnara, the Zephyrian Empire's foremost expert on gravity manipulation, delivered her preliminary findings via holographic transmission from the research station orbiting the gas giant Zirian Prime. High Admiral, Dr. Felnara began, her image flickering slightly across the vast distance between star systems. I've analyzed all available data from the Earth invasion attempt, and I must inform you that we are dealing with gravitational phenomena unlike anything in our scientific databases. Explain. Earth's gravitational field appears to be what our ancestors might have called a mature gravity well. Most inhabited planets develop life relatively quickly after formation, before their gravitational characteristics fully stabilize. Earth is different. Life on that world has been shaped by gravity for billions of years, creating a feedback loop that has refined the planet's gravitational field in ways we've never encountered. High Admiral Kethvar leaned forward in his chair. Are you telling me that a planet's gravity can evolve? Not evolve, exactly, but concentrate, become more efficient. Every living thing on Earth has been fighting against gravity since the beginning of life on that world. The gravitational field has essentially been trained by billions of years of biological resistance to become more persistent, more penetrating. Our gravity nullification technology was designed to work against standard gravitational fields, not against something this focused. The implications were staggering. If Dr. Felnara was correct, Earth wasn't just another inhabited planet. It was a world where gravity itself had become a weapon, honed by eons of evolutionary pressure into something that could defeat the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, the aftermath of the failed invasion was creating chaos in every government and military command center on the planet. President Sarah Martinez was in the Situation Room, surrounded by advisors, generals, scientists, and intelligence officials, all trying to make sense of what had happened. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, the president said, looking around the table. Alien ships, actual alien ships, attempted to invade Earth, and they were defeated by gravity? General Morrison nodded grimly. That's correct, Madam President. According to Dr. Chin's gravitational wave analysis and our own satellite data, approximately 12,000 extraterrestrial vessels entered our atmosphere. Roughly 400 of them crashed due to what appears to be the failure of their anti-gravity technology. The rest retreated to high orbit, but many are still struggling to achieve stable positions outside our gravity well. And they haven't attacked? No weapons fire, no bombardment, nothing. Nothing, ma'am. It's as if they came here expecting easy conquest, and instead found themselves fighting a battle they couldn't win against the planet itself. Dr. Chan, who had been invited to brief the president personally, spoke up from her position at the far end of the table. Madam President, if I may, I think we need to understand that what happened here represents a fundamental miscalculation on the aliens' part. They clearly have technology that can manipulate gravity. We've detected energy signatures consistent with gravity nullification systems. But their technology appears to be designed to work against normal gravitational fields. What makes Earth's gravitational field abnormal? It's not abnormal, exactly. It's just experienced. Every form of life on Earth has been dealing with gravity since the beginning. We've evolved to work with it, against it, and despite it. Our bones, our muscles, our circulatory systems, even our inner ear balance mechanisms. Everything about human biology is designed around constant gravitational pressure. The president considered this for a moment. So you're saying that Earth's gravity is somehow more effective against their technology because we've been living with it longer? I'm saying that Earth's gravity has been shaped by billions of years of biological interaction. It's not stronger than other planetary gravitational fields, but it's more persistent, more penetrating. It's gravity that has learned to be effective through eons of evolutionary pressure. Secretary of Defense Robert Chun raised his hand. Dr. Chun, are you suggesting that gravity can learn? Not in the way that living beings learn, but in the way that any complex system can develop more efficient patterns over time. Earth's gravitational field has been in constant interaction with life for longer than life has existed on most planets. The result is a gravitational environment that's uniquely challenging to overcome artificially. As the briefing continued, reports were coming in from around the world of crashed alien vessels. The sites were being secured by military forces from every major nation, and the initial investigations were revealing technology beyond human understanding, but technology that had clearly failed catastrophically when confronted with Earth's gravitational field. Colonel James Martinez, no relation to the president, was leading the investigation team at the Montana crash site where the Void Hunter had impacted. The crater was still warm, and the twisted remains of the alien vessel told a story of structural failure that seemed impossible for such advanced technology. Sir, Sergeant Williams called from near the center of the wreckage. You need to see this. Colonel Martinez made his way carefully across the debris field to where his sergeant was kneeling beside what appeared to be a piece of alien machinery. The device was roughly the size of a car engine, but it seemed to be made of materials that shifted color in the sunlight and hummed with residual energy. What am I looking at, Sergeant? Near as we can tell, sir, this appears to be some kind of gravity manipulation device. The eggheads from MIT are on their way, but the preliminary readings suggest this thing was designed to nullify gravitational effects. And it failed. Not exactly failed, sir. According to the energy readings, this device was working overtime when the ship crashed. It looks like it was drawing massive amounts of power, far more than it was designed to handle, and it still couldn't overcome Earth's gravity. Colonel Martinez stared at the alien device, trying to wrap his mind around the implications. Here was technology that could manipulate one of the fundamental forces of the universe, and it had been defeated by the simple fact that humans had been living with gravity for millions of years. Sergeant, I want this entire site locked down. Nobody gets near this wreckage without clearance from the Pentagon. And give me a direct line to General Morrison. She needs to know what we're finding here. Back on the flagship Stellar Dominion, Commander Vexhai was dealing with a crisis that threatened to destroy his entire fleet. More ships were reporting power failures as their gravity nullification systems continued to drain energy at unsustainable rates. Even in high orbit, Earth's gravity well seemed to be affecting their vessels in ways that defied all scientific understanding. Engineering report, Vexhai demanded as he entered the ship's technical center, where his best scientists and engineers were working frantically to understand what was happening to their technology. Chief Engineer Ralseth looked up from a display showing power consumption across the fleet. Commander, we're facing a cascade failure scenario. Our gravity nullifiers are designed to operate in brief bursts during atmospheric entry and exit. They were never intended to run continuously against a gravitational field this aggressive. Aggressive? Sir, there's no other word for it. Earth's gravity doesn't just pull. It seems to actively resist our nullification technology. The more power we apply to overcome it, the more resistance we encounter. It's as if the planet's gravitational field is fighting back. Commander Vexhai studied the readouts, seeing energy consumption curves that should have been impossible. How long can we maintain current positions? At present consumption rates, approximately 18 hours before we start losing ships to complete power failure. And if we try to leave the system entirely? Unknown, sir. We'd need to break free of Earth's gravity well first, and that might require more power than our remaining reserves can provide. The commander felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. The Zephyrian Empire had just encountered something that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics, warfare, and their own technological superiority. Open a channel to the surface, Vexhai ordered. It's time we made contact with the humans. The message was picked up by radio telescopes around the world simultaneously. A complex mathematical sequence that clearly indicated artificial origin, followed by what appeared to be an attempt at basic communication using prime numbers and fundamental constants. At the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was the first human being to realize that the aliens were trying to surrender. This is incredible, she breathed, studying the transmission patterns. They're using basic mathematical concepts that any intelligent species would understand. But the structure of the message, they're not trying to threaten or demand. They're trying to negotiate. The message, once decoded, was surprisingly simple. The aliens identified themselves as the Zephyrian Empire, acknowledged that they had attempted to invade Earth, and requested permission to establish communication protocols with human authorities. Most importantly, they indicated that they were in distress and needed assistance to leave Earth's vicinity safely. When the message reached the president, the Situation Room fell silent. They're asking for our help. President Martinez asked incredulously. That appears to be the case, ma'am. General Morrison confirmed. Intelligence analysis suggests they're trapped in our gravity well and running out of power to escape. So let me get this straight, the president said slowly. They came here to conquer us, got defeated by gravity, and now they want us to help them leave? Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what it looks like. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Madam President, this could be an unprecedented opportunity. If we can establish communication with them, we might be able to learn not just about their technology, but about why Earth's gravity affected them so severely. The scientific implications alone. What about the security implications? Secretary of Defense Chun interjected. They came here to invade us. Now that they know Earth's gravity can defeat their technology, what's to stop them from developing countermeasures and trying again? The president looked around the room at the faces of her advisors, some excited by the possibilities, others concerned about the risks. Finally, she made her decision. Dr. Chun, I want you to work with our linguists and mathematicians to establish communication with them. General Morrison, I want our military on high alert until we understand their intentions better. And I want constant monitoring of their fleet. If they show any signs of aggression, I want to know immediately. What should we tell them, ma'am? Dr. Chen asked. President Martinez considered the question carefully. Tell them we're willing to talk. But also tell them that if they try anything hostile, they'll find out that gravity isn't the only force on Earth that they should be worried about. As night fell over the continental United States, the most powerful military force in galactic history found itself effectively trapped in orbit around a small blue planet, defeated not by superior technology or military strategy, but by the most basic force in the universe, a force that every human being had been fighting against since the day they learned to walk. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn their second hard lesson about humanity. We didn't just evolve to live with gravity. We evolved to thrive despite it. And that difference was about to change everything. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been dreaming of first contact with alien intelligence her entire career, but she had never imagined it would happen like this, with the aliens essentially stranded in orbit and asking for help. The communication center at the Arecibo Observatory had been transformed overnight into humanity's primary interface with the Zephyrian Empire, with linguists, mathematicians, physicists, and military personnel working around the clock to establish meaningful dialogue. We're making progress, Dr. Rodriguez reported to the video conference screen showing officials from every major world government. They've shared what appears to be a basic mathematical and physical constants database, and we've been able to establish rudimentary communication protocols. They understand that we understand they're in distress. President Martinez leaned forward on the screen. Dr. Rodriguez, have they explained why they came here? Yes, ma'am. According to their transmissions, Earth was designated as target number 1000, and one in what they call their expansion protocol. They've apparently conquered 1,000 other worlds using similar tactics, sudden overwhelming force followed by rapid subjugation. Earth was supposed to be routine. And now they're trapped in our gravity well with failing power systems, requesting assistance to leave our space safely. And, well, they seem to be in a state of shock about the whole situation. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence was essentially a hostage negotiation where Earth itself was holding the aliens prisoner. Dr. Sarah Chun, who had been monitoring the gravitational effects of the Zephyrian fleet, spoke up from her position at the Colorado Springs facility via satellite link. I've been tracking their energy signatures, and their situation is deteriorating rapidly. Several more ships have gone dark in the past hour, and the ones that are still active are showing signs of severe power drain. What happens if their ships lose power completely while they're in our gravity well? Asked General Morrison. They fall, Dr. Chen said simply. These ships weren't designed for sustained operation in gravitational fields like Earth's. Without their gravity nullification systems, they're just very heavy objects in orbit. And objects in orbit fall when they lose the energy to maintain their position. The implications were sobering. If the Zephyrian fleet lost power completely, Earth would be bombarded by thousands of falling spacecraft, each one potentially causing devastation on the scale of a nuclear weapon. Commander Vexhai was facing the same terrible mathematics from his position aboard the Stellar Dominion. His fleet was dying around him, ship by ship, as Earth's relentless gravity drained their power reserves beyond any possibility of recovery. Sir, Lieutenant Zilthara reported, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. We've lost another 6 vessels in the past hour. The Iron Resolve, Stellar Pride, Void Dancer, Sky Render, Star Crusher, and Death Shadow have all gone dark. Their last transmissions indicated complete power failure. Crash trajectories? Unknown, sir. Without power, we can't predict where they'll come down. Vexhai closed his eyes, trying to process the scope of the disaster. In less than 24 hours, he had gone from commanding the most powerful invasion fleet in galactic history to watching helplessly as his ships fell one by one to a force that no Zephyrian weapon could fight. Any word from the humans on our request for assistance? Yes, sir. They've agreed to establish formal communication protocols, but they're demanding explanations for our presence here and assurances that we won't attempt any hostile actions. Tell them, Vexhai said wearily, that we couldn't attempt hostile actions even if we wanted to. Half our fleet is already destroyed, and the other half is dying slowly. We're no threat to anyone except ourselves at this point. The first direct voice communication between humans and Zephyrians took place at 1430 Greenwich Mean Time on what historians would later call Gravity Day. Dr. Rodriguez and her team had worked throughout the night to establish audio protocols, and the Zephyrians had managed to create translation algorithms based on mathematical constants and physical laws. This is Dr. Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Communication Team, she said into the microphone, knowing that her words were being transmitted to alien minds thousands of miles above her head. We acknowledge your request for assistance and your explanation of your presence in our space. The response came after a brief delay, the alien voice computer translated but still carrying an unmistakable tone of exhaustion and defeat. This is Commander Vexhai of the Zephyrian Empire. We'd apologize for our attempted invasion of your world. We were unprepared for the unique challenges posed by your planet's gravitational environment. Commander, we need to understand your intentions. Are you still planning to attempt conquest of Earth? There was a longer pause before the response came, and when it did, it carried what sounded almost like bitter laughter. Dr. Rodriguez, conquest is no longer possible. Our invasion force has been effectively neutralized by your planet's natural defenses. We are requesting permission to leave your space peacefully, if such departure is even possible given our current circumstances. Dr. Rodriguez looked around the room at the assembled team of scientists, military officers, and government officials who were listening to humanity's first conversation with alien intelligence. The absurdity of the situation was almost overwhelming. The aliens had come to conquer Earth, and instead found themselves begging for help to escape. Commander Vexhai, we're willing to discuss assistance, but we need more information. How many ships in your fleet are still operational? Approximately 7,000 vessels remain powered, but that number is decreasing every hour. Our gravity nullification technology is failing across the fleet. We estimate complete power failure within 12 hours unless we can find a way to break free of your planet's gravitational influence. President Martinez, who had been listening to the conversation via secure communication link, made a decision that would reshape humanity's relationship with the cosmos. Dr. Rodriguez, came the president's voice through her earpiece. Tell them we're willing to help them leave, but we want something in return. What should I ask for, Madam President? Information, technology, and a guarantee that they'll never try to invade Earth again. Also, tell them that any ships that crash on our planet will be considered property of Earth, along with any technology recovered from them. Dr. Rodriguez nodded and keyed her microphone. Commander Vexhai, the Earth governments are willing to provide assistance to help your fleet leave our space safely. However, we have conditions for this assistance. We will agree to almost any reasonable terms, Dr. Rodriguez. First, we want detailed information about your technology, your empire, and other inhabited worlds. Second, we want a formal treaty guaranteeing that the Zephyrian Empire will never again attempt to invade or attack Earth. Third, any vessels that have crashed or will crash on Earth, along with their technology, become property of Earth for study and analysis. The pause this time was very long, and when Commander Vexhai responded, his voice carried a tone of resignation that needed no translation. Dr. Rodriguez, you are negotiating from a position of strength that you may not fully understand. The Zephyrian Empire has ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. We have technology that can destroy planets, weapons that can shatter moons, and ships that can travel between dimensions. But none of that technology can overcome the simple gravitational field of your world. Are you accepting our conditions, Commander? We accept all conditions. In exchange, We ask for your assistance in developing a method to allow our remaining ships to escape Earth's gravity well without complete power failure. Dr. Sarah Chun, who had been listening to the conversation while monitoring gravitational readings, spoke up. Dr. Rodriguez, I think I might have a solution to their problem. All eyes in the room turned to her as she continued. The issue isn't that Earth's gravity is too strong for their technology. It's that their technology is working against gravity instead of with it. If they can modify their approach, they might be able to use Earth's gravity to help them escape instead of fighting against it. Explain, Dr. Rodriguez said. It's like swimming upstream versus riding a current. They're trying to nullify gravity completely, which requires enormous energy. But if they could work with Earth's gravitational field, use its natural patterns and flows, they might be able to achieve escape velocity with much less power expenditure. The concept was revolutionary. Instead of fighting against gravity, the aliens could learn to work with it the way humans had been doing for millions of years. But it would require the Zephyrians to completely rethink their approach to gravitational technology. When Dr. Chin's proposal was transmitted to the Zephyrian fleet, the response was immediate and desperate. Dr. Rodriguez, our scientists are intrigued by this possibility, but we would need human assistance to understand how to implement such an approach. Our gravity manipulation technology has always been designed to overcome gravitational fields, not work in harmony with them. We're willing to share our gravitational research, Commander, but we'll need access to your ships and technology to understand how your systems work. Dr. Rodriguez, we will provide complete access to our surviving vessels and full cooperation with your scientists. At this point, human assistance may be our only hope for survival. The next phase of First Contact would involve something unprecedented in galactic history, a collaboration between humans and aliens to solve a problem that alien technology alone couldn't handle. The species that had mastered gravity manipulation would have to learn from the species that had spent eons simply learning to live with gravity. Dr. Marcus Webb, NASA's leading expert on orbital mechanics, found himself at the center of the most extraordinary engineering challenge in human history. Within hours of the agreement with the Zephyrians, he was coordinating with alien engineers to develop escape trajectories that would allow their ships to leave Earth's gravity well without catastrophic power failure. The key, Dr. Webb explained to the joint human-Zephyrian engineering team via quantum communication link, is to stop thinking of gravity as something to overcome and start thinking of it as something to use. Earth's gravity, while has natural flow patterns, areas where gravitational pull is slightly weaker or stronger due to our planet's rotation, orbital mechanics, and even lunar influence. The alien response came from someone identifying themselves as Chief Engineer Raoul Seth. Dr. Webb, this approach is completely contrary to Zephyrian gravitational theory. We have always sought to dominate gravitational fields, not cooperate with them. And that's exactly why you're trapped, Dr. Webb replied with a slight smile. Humans never had the option of dominating gravity. We had to learn to work with it. Every time you walk up a staircase, you're using your muscles efficiently to work against gravity without wasting energy. Every time you throw a ball, you're calculating gravitational trajectories instinctively. You're not fighting gravity, you're dancing with it. The concept was so foreign to Zephyrian thinking that it required a complete paradigm shift. For the first time in their species' history, they would have to approach gravity as partners rather than conquerors. As the joint engineering team worked through the night to develop new escape trajectories, reports continued to come in of Zephyrian ships falling from orbit as their power systems failed. Each crash was carefully monitored by human forces, and recovery teams were dispatched to secure the alien technology for study. The wreckage told a story of incredible sophistication brought down by fundamental misunderstanding. The Zephyrian ships were marvels of engineering, with technology that seemed to border on magic by human standards. But every crashed vessel showed the same pattern: gravity nullification systems that had burned themselves out trying to overcome Earth's gravitational field through brute force rather than finesse. Colonel Martinez, still overseeing recovery operations at the Montana crash site, received a call from the Pentagon as he watched teams of scientists carefully examining alien technology that had failed so catastrophically. "Colonel, this is General Morrison. How are the recovery operations proceeding? General, it's like nothing I've ever seen. This technology is centuries ahead of anything we have, but it failed because it was designed by people who never had to really understand gravity. It's as if they built the most sophisticated hammer in the universe to swat flies. Technically impressive, but completely inappropriate for the task. Any insights into how we can help them escape? Actually, yes, ma'am. The more I look at this wreckage, the more I think Dr. Webb is right. Their technology isn't designed to work efficiently in strong gravitational fields. But if we can teach them to modify their approach, they might not need as much power to achieve escape velocity. The collaboration between human and Zephyrian scientists was producing results faster than anyone had expected. By working together, they were developing escape trajectories that used gravity-assisted acceleration, the same principle that NASA had been using for decades to send probes to the outer planets. Commander Vexhai watched the joint engineering displays with amazement as human scientists showed his people how to use Earth's own gravitational field to help accelerate their ships toward escape velocity. The concept was so simple, so elegant, that it seemed impossible that the Zephyrian Empire had never considered it. Commander, Chief Engineer Ralseth reported, the human approach is working. We've successfully tested modified trajectories with our remaining probe ships, and power consumption has dropped by 60% while maintaining adequate escape velocity. How long to modify the entire fleet? With human assistance, approximately 8 hours for the ships that still have sufficient power reserves. For the first time since the invasion began, Vexhai allowed himself to hope that his people might survive their encounter with Earth. But he was also beginning to understand that this defeat would change the Zephyrian Empire forever. They had encountered a species that had mastered something the Empire had never truly understood, the art of living in harmony with the fundamental forces of the universe. The successful escape of the first modified Zephyrian vessels marked a turning point in galactic history. Not only had humanity's first contact with alien intelligence resulted in peaceful resolution, but it had also demonstrated something that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Sometimes the species with the most advanced technology weren't the ones who truly understood the universe. As the joint rescue operation continued through the night, both species were learning lessons that would echo through the centuries. The Zephyrians were discovering that true mastery came not from domination, but from cooperation. And humanity was learning that their greatest strength might not be their technology or their weapons, but their deep, evolutionary understanding of the forces that shaped their world. 3 days after first contact, Dr. Sarah Chun found herself aboard the Zephyrian flagship Stellar Dominion, the first human being ever to set foot on an alien spacecraft. The experience should have been the pinnacle of scientific achievement, but instead, she was there as part of a rescue mission, helping the most advanced military force in the galaxy figure out how to escape from Earth's gravity. The interior of the Zephyrian ship was a marvel of engineering that defied human understanding. Corridors seemed to curve in impossible directions, surfaces glowed with their own inner light, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. But underneath the alien magnificence, Dr. Chun could see the signs of a ship in crisis. Dimmed lighting to conserve power, sections that had been shut down to redirect energy to life support, and the unmistakable tension of people facing a situation beyond their control. Commander Vexhai met her at the airlock, and Dr. Chun was surprised by how human-like the Zephyrian commander appeared. Tall and thin, with elongated limbs and large eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries, Vexhai moved with the careful precision of someone conserving energy in a desperate situation. Dr. Chun, the commander said through his translation device, I welcome you aboard, though I regret the circumstances of our meeting. Commander, I'm honored to be here. Our teams have been working around the clock to help your remaining ships achieve escape velocity, for which we are grateful beyond expression. But I confess, Dr. Chun, that I am struggling to understand how your species has mastered something that has eluded the Zephyrian Empire for centuries. Dr. Chun followed the commander through corridors lined with technology she couldn't begin to comprehend, toward what Vexhai had called the ship's gravitational analysis center. As they walked, she tried to find words to explain something that was so fundamental to human experience that most people never thought about it. Commander, may I ask you about your homeworld, Zephyr Prime? It is a magnificent world, 3 times the size of Earth, with artificial gravity generators throughout our cities. We conquered the limitations of natural gravity millennia ago. And your people evolved there? No, actually. The Zephyrian species evolved on Zephyr Minor, a small moon with very weak gravity. When we achieved spaceflight and colonized Zephyr Prime, we immediately installed gravity generation systems to create comfortable living conditions. Dr. Chen stopped walking, the pieces of the puzzle suddenly falling into place. Commander, your people never had to really live with strong gravity. You've always had technology to overcome it. Yes, it has been one of our greatest achievements, the conquest of gravitational limitation. But that's exactly the problem, Dr. Chen said, excitement creeping into her voice. You conquered gravity instead of learning to live with it. Humans spent millions of years adapting to Earth's gravity. Every step we take, every movement we make, we're instinctively calculating gravitational effects. We don't fight gravity, we dance with it. The Gravitational Analysis Center was a circular room filled with displays showing the energy patterns of Earth's gravitational field. Dr. Chun was amazed to see that the Zephyrians had incredibly detailed maps of gravitational flows around Earth, but they were interpreting the data in completely the wrong way. You're looking at these gravitational patterns as obstacles to overcome, she said, studying their displays. But look, here, and here. These are actually gravitational currents that you can ride, like ocean currents or wind patterns. You don't fight against a river current if you want to move downstream. You use it to help carry you. Chief Engineer Raul Seth, who had been working with human scientists for the past 2 days, nodded slowly. Dr. Chun, we have been trying to understand this concept, but it requires us to think about gravity in ways that are completely contrary to our technological philosophy. Show me your gravity nullification technology, Dr. Chen requested. What she saw was breathtaking. Devices that could manipulate gravitational fields with precision that seemed to border on magic. But, as she studied the systems with Chief Engineer Raul Seth, she began to understand why they were failing against Earth's gravity. These systems are designed to create areas of zero gravity, she observed. They're trying to eliminate gravitational effects entirely. Yes, complete gravity nullification has always been our goal. But that's incredibly energy-intensive. It's like trying to stop a river by building a dam instead of just redirecting the water around you. You're fighting against gravity with brute force instead of working with its natural patterns. Dr. Chen spent the next several hours working with Zephyrian engineers to modify their gravitational systems. Instead of trying to nullify gravity completely, they worked on ways to redirect gravitational forces, to use Earth's own gravitational patterns to assist rather than hinder spacecraft movement. The breakthrough came when Dr. Chun suggested they study how birds fly. Birds don't nullify gravity, she explained. They use their wings to redirect air currents and gravitational forces, working with the natural forces instead of against them. The concept was revolutionary for the Zephyrians, but it worked. Modified ships began achieving escape velocity with a fraction of their previous power consumption, riding gravitational currents the way ships ride ocean currents. Meanwhile, on Earth, the impact of first contact was reshaping human understanding of their place in the universe. President Martinez was dealing with a completely unprecedented situation, not an invasion or a threat, but an opportunity that could change the course of human history. Madam President, Secretary of State Jennifer Walsh reported during the morning briefing, we're receiving communications from governments around the world requesting information about our negotiations with the Zephyrians. Everyone wants to know what we're learning from their technology. What are we learning? The president asked. General Morrison consulted her tablet. According to our science teams, Zephyrian technology is centuries ahead of ours in most areas, faster than light travel, energy weapons, dimensional manipulation. But their approach to problem-solving is completely different from ours. They rely on technological solutions to overcome natural forces, while we've learned to work with natural forces. Which approach is better? That's the fascinating part, ma'am. In most situations, their technology gives them enormous advantages. But here on Earth, our approach is superior because we understand gravity in ways they never needed to learn. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been serving as humanity's primary communication interface with the Zephyrians, spoke up via video link from Arecibo. Madam President, Commander Vexhai has shared some remarkable information with us. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered over 1,000 worlds, but they've never encountered a planet quite like Earth. What makes Earth different? Most inhabited worlds develop intelligent life relatively quickly after planetary formation, before their gravitational characteristics fully mature. Earth is unusual because life here evolved over an extremely long period, allowing gravity to become more refined, more complex in its interactions with biological systems. Dr. Rodriguez, are you saying that Earth's gravity is actually different from other planets? Not stronger, necessarily, but more sophisticated, more experienced, if you will. The gravitational field here has been shaped by billions of years of interaction with life, creating patterns and flows that are incredibly complex and difficult to artificially overcome. President Martinez considered this information carefully. So we're not just dealing with a military defeat of the aliens. We're dealing with a fundamental discovery about what makes Earth unique in the galaxy. Exactly, ma'am. And the Zephyrians are as interested in understanding this as we are. Commander Vexhai has proposed a formal scientific exchange program. The idea was intriguing, but also concerning. What would they offer in return for our gravitational expertise? Everything, ma'am. Faster than light travel, advanced materials science, energy technology, medical advances. They're offering to share their entire technological database in exchange for human insights into gravitational dynamics. It was an offer that could advance human civilization by centuries, but it also raised questions about what humanity would lose in the process. If Earth's unique relationship with gravity was humanity's greatest advantage, what would happen when that knowledge was shared with the galactic empire? Back aboard the Stellar Dominion, Dr. Chun was witnessing the philosophical transformation of an entire species. As more Zephyrian ships successfully escaped Earth's gravity while using human-designed trajectories, she could see a change in how the aliens viewed their relationship with the universe. Dr. Chun, Commander Vexhai said as they watched another group of ships successfully achieve escape velocity. Your people have taught us something that may be more valuable than all the worlds we have conquered. What's that, Commander? That true strength comes not from domination, but from understanding. For centuries, the Zephyrian Empire has expanded by overwhelming other species with superior technology. But you have defeated us with superior wisdom. We didn't defeat you, Commander. Gravity defeated you. We just learned to live with it instead of fighting it. Perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. As the evacuation continued, Dr. Chin found herself in long conversations with Zephyrian scientists about the fundamental differences between their civilizations. The Zephyrians had achieved technological mastery by learning to control the forces of nature, while humans had achieved wisdom by learning to cooperate with those same forces. On our homeworld, Chief Engineer Ralseth explained, we have artificial weather, artificial gravity, artificial ecosystems. We created perfection by eliminating the challenges of natural forces. But that also eliminated the opportunity to learn from those forces, Dr. Chin replied. Humans had to develop intuitive understanding of physics because we couldn't just technological override the laws of nature. We had to work within them. And now we see the wisdom of your approach. Our technology failed because we tried to impose our will on your planet's gravitational field. Your approach succeeds because it works with the natural patterns that already exist. The philosophical implications were staggering. The Zephyrian Empire had built their civilization on the principle of technological dominance over nature, while humanity had built theirs on the principle of adaptive cooperation with nature. The failure of the invasion wasn't just a military defeat, it was a fundamental challenge to the Zephyrian worldview. As the final groups of Zephyrian ships prepared for departure, Commander Vexheim made a request that would shape the future relationship between humanity and the galactic community. Dr. Chun, I would like to formally invite human representatives to visit Zephyr Prime as ambassadors and teachers. Our empire has much to learn from your species' approach to living in harmony with natural forces. Commander, that's a generous offer, but it would represent a fundamental change in human civilization. Are you sure your people are ready for that kind of relationship? Dr. Chun, The alternative is for the Zephyrian Empire to continue expanding through conquest until we encounter another species that has mastered forces we do not understand. Your people have shown us a better way. We would be honored to learn from you. The offer hung in the air between them. Humanity's first invitation to join the galactic community, not as conquerors or conquered, but as teachers and partners. It was an opportunity that could transform both species, but it would also mean that Earth's unique relationship with gravity would no longer be a secret weapon against potential invaders. As Dr. Chun watched the last Zephyrian ships disappear into the darkness of space, she realized that humanity was standing at the threshold of a new era. The species that had learned to walk upright despite gravity's constant pull was about to teach the galaxy how to work with the forces of nature instead of simply trying to dominate them. The invasion had failed, but something far more important had begun. The first partnership between humanity and alien intelligence based on mutual respect and shared learning rather than conquest and domination. 6 months after what historians now called the Gravity War, Ambassador Sarah Chin stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar spacecraft, watching Earth grow smaller in the viewport as they departed for Zephyr Prime. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was traveling in a ship built using Zephyrian technology, modified with human gravitational dynamics, to visit a civilization that had tried to conquer her world and instead ended up asking for humanity's help. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperation between human and Zephyrian engineering. The Harmony combined Zephyrian faster-than-light technology with human gravitational navigation systems, creating a vessel that could travel between stars while working with gravitational fields instead of simply overpowering them. The result was a ship that was both more efficient and more elegant than anything either species had built alone. Ambassador Chun, came the voice of Captain Maria Rodriguez, the first human starship commander. We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian fleet. Commander Vexhai would like to speak with you before we enter hyperspace. Sarah made her way to the communication center, where a large holographic display showed the interior of the Stellar Dominion. Commander Vexhai appeared, but he looked different from the desperate alien commander she had first met 6 months ago. There was a calmness to him now, a sense of peace that hadn't been there during the crisis. Ambassador Chun, Vexhai said through the translation system that had been refined over months of cooperation, I wanted to speak with you before we begin our journey to the Empire. What you will see there may be difficult to understand. How so, Commander? The Zephyrian Empire was built on the principle of technological supremacy. Our cities, our worlds, our entire civilization is designed around the idea that technology can overcome any natural limitation. After our encounter with Earth, many of our people are questioning those principles. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Change is never easy, especially when it challenges fundamental beliefs about how the universe works. Indeed. But I believe the change is necessary. We have conquered 1,000 worlds, but we have learned from none of them. Your people have taught us that wisdom comes not from conquest, but from understanding. The journey to Zephyr Prime took 3 days using the modified faster-than-light drive, but those 3 days gave Sarah time to study the reports that had been flowing between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire since the failed invasion. What she learned was both fascinating and concerning. The Zephyrian Empire controlled over 2,000 star systems and had encountered hundreds of intelligent species during their expansion. But their approach had always been the same: demonstrate technological superiority, demand surrender, and absorb conquered worlds into their empire. They had never formed partnerships, never engaged in cultural exchange, and never learned from the species they conquered. Earth was different. Not only had humanity survived the invasion attempt, but they had done so by demonstrating a fundamental understanding of natural forces that the Zephyrians lacked. For the first time in their history, the Empire had encountered a species that had something to teach them. Dr. Marcus Webb, who was serving as humanity's chief scientific advisor for the mission, joined Sarah in the observation lounge as they prepared to drop out of hyperspace near Zephyr Prime. Sarah, I've been reviewing the gravitational data from our journey, and something remarkable is happening, he said, pulling up displays on his tablet. The Zephyrian ships in our convoy are using 30% less power than they did during their original approach to Earth. Because they're applying human gravitational techniques? Exactly. They're not fighting against the natural gravitational currents between star systems, they're riding them. It's like they've learned to sail instead of just using brute force to push through the water. The implications were staggering. If Zephyrian ships could become 30% more efficient just by applying human gravitational dynamics, the entire basis of their empire's expansion might change. Instead of needing massive fleets to overcome distances and obstacles, they could achieve the same results with smaller, more efficient ships operating in harmony with natural forces. When Zephyr Prime appeared on their screens, Sarah gasped despite herself. The planet was 3 times the size of Earth, but it looked nothing like a natural world. The entire surface was covered with gleaming cities that rose into the clouds, connected by bridges and transport tubes that seemed to ignore gravity entirely. Artificial suns hung in the sky, providing perfect illumination, while the real star was partially blocked by massive orbital platforms. It's incredible, Dr. Webb breathed, but it's also completely artificial. There's no natural landscape visible anywhere. Commander Vexhi's voice came over the communication system as their ship approached the planet. Welcome to Zephyr Prime, Ambassador Chun. What you see represents 10,000 years of Zephyrian engineering, the complete mastery of our environment through technology. It's beautiful, Commander, but where is the natural world? There is none. We reshaped Zephyr Prime to our specifications millennia ago. Weather, gravity, geology, even the orbital mechanics. Everything is controlled by our technology. As their ship descended through the artificial atmosphere, Sarah began to understand why the Zephyrians had been so unprepared for Earth's natural gravitational field. They had lived for so long in an artificially controlled environment that they had lost touch with the natural forces that still shaped most of the universe. The landing platform where they touched down was a marvel of engineering, with gravity generators that allowed ships to settle gently regardless of their mass or approach angle. But Sarah noticed something interesting. Several Zephyrian ships were landing using modified techniques that required less power from the gravity generators, applying principles they had learned from human gravitational dynamics. High Admiral Kethvar was waiting to greet them, surrounded by what appeared to be the entire leadership council of the Zephyrian Empire. Sarah had expected a formal military reception, but what she found was something closer to a scientific conference, with hundreds of Zephyrian researchers and engineers gathered to meet the humans who had revolutionized their understanding of gravitational dynamics. Ships were becoming more efficient, city transportation systems were using less energy, and even their massive orbital platforms were being redesigned to work with natural gravitational flows instead of simply overpowering them. The changes go beyond mere efficiency, explained Dr. Felnara, the Empire's chief gravitational physicist. We are learning to see the universe differently, not as a collection of obstacles to be overcome, but as a complex system of forces to be understood and cooperated with. Sarah found herself in the unique position of being both ambassador and teacher, sharing humanity's intuitive understanding of gravity while learning about Zephyrian technology that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. The exchange was transforming both species' understanding of physics and engineering. But the real transformation was philosophical. As Sarah toured Zephyrian cities and research facilities, she saw evidence of a civilization questioning its basic assumptions about the relationship between technology and nature. For 10,000 years, High Admiral Kethvar explained during a private dinner, we have believed that the purpose of technology is to free us from the limitations of natural forces. Your people have shown us that the purpose of technology should be to help us work more effectively with natural forces. It's not that one approach is right and the other is wrong, Sarah replied. It's that both approaches have their place. Sometimes you need to overcome natural limitations, and sometimes you need to work within them. The key is knowing which approach to use when. The week-long visit to Zephyr Prime revealed the scope of changes rippling through the Zephyrian Empire. Worlds that had been conquered centuries ago were being offered new relationships based on partnership rather than domination. Technologies that had been jealously guarded were being shared with species that could contribute to the Empire's understanding of natural forces. Most remarkably, The Zephyrians were beginning to restore natural environments on some of their worlds, seeking to rediscover the relationship with nature that they had lost during their technological ascendancy. "We are learning," Commander Vexhai told Sarah on the final day of her visit, "that conquest and domination may have made us powerful, but they also made us ignorant. We conquered the galaxy, but we never truly understood it." The return journey to Earth gave Sarah time to process what she had experienced and to prepare her report for the President and the United Nations. The Zephyrian Empire wasn't just offering technological exchange. They were offering a fundamental shift in how intelligent species related to each other and to the universe itself. When the Harmony dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, Sarah felt a wave of emotion as she saw the blue-green marble that had somehow managed to teach the galaxy's most powerful empire a lesson in humility. Earth looked smaller and more fragile than ever, but also more precious. A world where life had learned to work with natural forces rather than simply trying to overcome them. President Martinez was waiting at the landing facility when Sarah returned, along with representatives from every major nation on Earth. The briefing that followed would shape humanity's decision about whether to join the galactic community as partners with the Zephyrian Empire. "Madam President," Sarah reported, "the Zephyrians are offering us full partnership in their empire, along with access to all their technology and knowledge of other intelligent species. In exchange, they want human insight into working with natural forces and human expertise in sustainable relationships with planetary environments." "What are the risks?" asked Secretary of Defense Chun. "The primary risk is cultural contamination. Zephyrian technology could advance human civilization by centuries, but it might also lead us away from the Earth-based wisdom that made us valuable to them in the first place." President Martinez considered this carefully. "Ambassador Chun, in your judgment, should humanity accept this partnership?" Sarah thought about the artificial perfection of Zephyr Prime, the efficiency of Zephyrian technology, and the wisdom that humanity had gained from millions of years of living with Earth's natural forces. "Madam President, I believe we should accept, but with conditions. We share our knowledge and join their community, but we also preserve and protect our relationship with Earth. We become teachers to the galaxy, but we never stop being students of our own world." The decision to join the Zephyrian Empire as equal partners was announced simultaneously in every major city on Earth and transmitted to civilizations throughout the galaxy. Humanity would share its gravitational wisdom with the cosmos, but Earth would remain the center of human civilization, a reminder that sometimes the most advanced technology is learning to work in harmony with the forces that shaped us. 1 year after the failed invasion, Dr. Sarah Chun stood once again in her laboratory in Colorado Springs, watching gravitational wave data stream across her monitors. But now the data included readings from across the galaxy, transmitted by Zephyrian sensors that had been modified with human gravitational dynamics. The universe, it turned out, was full of gravitational currents and flows that could be used to make space travel more efficient, planetary engineering more sustainable, and civilization itself more harmonious with natural forces. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't just an understanding of gravity. It was an understanding of how to live in partnership with the forces that shaped reality itself. The species that had learned to stand upright on a gravity well called Earth had become the teachers who showed the galaxy how to walk in harmony with the cosmos. And, in doing so, they had transformed not just alien civilizations, but their own understanding of what it meant to be human in an infinite universe. The invasion that was supposed to conquer Earth in 3 days had instead launched humanity into the stars, not as conquerors, but as the species that understood something the galaxy's greatest empire had forgotten, that true strength comes not from fighting against the universe, but from learning to dance with the forces that created us all. Gravity had struck indeed, but, in the end, it had lifted humanity higher than they had ever dreamed possible.